Hi everyone, I'm Wandering Sunrise, Fiaura's little personal OC pony, and this is the physics of my little pony friendship is magic! Now, before we start, Fiaura has had training in the sciences. She has degrees in communications, biology, and human sexuality, as well as additional studies in geology, geography, metallurgy, physics, advanced math, and 30 other courses we really don't want to get into. Just take that into account when you ask her stuff in the comments. She might cite some sources for you to go look at. Now, on to the video. Wait, do I have to do this? Fine. If you haven't seen the movie or aren't caught up to Season 8, Episode 2, then there are spoilers ahead. Turn away now as I only use the most recently available information. Can we go in now? Okay. Now I'm going to go over 4 things in this part 1 of the physics video. 1. Size and mass of the creatures. 2. Explosive blasts. 3. Pinkie Pie's giant cannon. There was another thing. Oh well, we'll go with these 3 and I'll think of it later. So how do we determine their mass? This comes first because in order to figure out most things about physics, we need the mass of the object, i.e. pony, that we're working with. Well, let's take a look at clip 1 and find out. Now, what we need to know is just how much force it takes to make Ocellus and that tower impact, just like that. Let's talk about how much force is required to create a visible shockwave. This creature is roughly 8 times the size of the pony and slams into the tower with enough force to create a blast wave we can actually see. The tower was large enough to fit 4 ponies on top of it. Now we can do some math to find the mass of the creature Ocellus turned into before she hit the tower. I'm going to give you the answer right now. 3,630 kilograms or roughly 3.63 metric tons. How do we know this? Because the formula for force is mass times acceleration equals force. We measure mass in kilograms and acceleration in meters per second squared. We know this because the show plays at 29.95 frames per second. And it takes 0.7 seconds or 20 frames for her to dive off course and slam into the tower quite suddenly. We need a measuring tape, however, to determine the dimensions of Ocellus. Luckily, Rarity has one for us, in inches. Next, we estimate that a marble tower of that size would require 400 pounds per square inch to shatter. But we need metric system for science terms. The measurement we really need is newtons per square meter. Then we can determine the minimum force of impact and use that to know how much the creature weighs. So let's get there. There is 1,778 newtons per 400 pounds of force. We know the creature took up 39 meters across the tower when we use Rarity's measurement of a pony and compare it to the size of Ocellus when she transformed. Using this, we know that 1,778 newtons per meter times 39 meters equals 69,342 newtons. Hey, I was using that. Well, I guess we can use this wrecking ball instead. Anyway, 69,342 newtons of force slammed into the tower all at once? She went that way. Hold on. Okay, look. You can take a seat and chase me afterward. Does that sound fair? Now we have to take our force and divide by our acceleration to determine the mass of the object required to create that force. So, 69,342 divided by 19.1 equals 3,630 kilograms, or 3.63 metric tons. Which presents us with a little problem. It shouldn't be able to fly. Now, hold on before you cry magic or sorcery fixed it. Remember, I am a science pony. Magic is just science I don't understand yet. Please give me a second. Based upon the size of its body, it simply cannot fly. Ocellus would not generate enough lift, even using the flight patterns of a honeybee, to get off the ground. Can you maybe let me explain before you lynch me, please? Looking at the creature in question, it would only generate a maximum of 1,100 kilograms of lift, which is 2,531 kilograms short just to get off the ground. I could sit here and explain how lift works with this mathematical equation, but we only have 15 minutes of video, and you guys want explosions. I will say that Pegasi, based upon their wingspan, cannot achieve lift. Yes, even with hollow bones, the Pegasi and alicorns could not fly by normal means. We will be going over their flight mechanics in detail in part 2 of this series. But for now, this creature does help us determine the mass of the ponies, which is roughly 250 kilograms. We know this through extrapolation and biology. If this is roughly 3,630 kilograms and 8 times the size of a pony, we can determine their mass compared to each other. You would think it's simple. 8 times the dimensions is 8 times the weight. But no, that's not how that works. In biology, many different factors determine the weight and mass of a creature. For instance, a bipedal creature like a human, when compared to a quadruped of the same size, a pony for instance, there is a radical difference. A human weighs in at around 62 kilograms on average. A pony weighs in between 200 and 400 kilograms, but one roughly the same size as a person is about 325 kilograms. Through a long, complicated process, we look at their forms of locomotion, what they eat, relative strength in their muscles, relative fat stores, size of their bones, shape of their bones, and a bunch of other factors. We then estimate fat reserves, determine their organ size, and then we get a good guess of just how much mass they take up. Taking all that into consideration, a pony in comparison to a bugbear would weigh between 250 and 406 kilograms. But if we use biology from our own world, we can solve a pony weight pretty quickly. Ponies of Equestria are the same size as a certain group of ponies in our own world. This means around the same size in our world, they would be about 200 to 300 kilograms. If we take the median, or the middle number between these two measurements, the best estimate is 289 kilograms on average. So we have a mass to work with. Now all the other calculations in this video and the next one will be much easier. Right, I promised to talk about explosive blasts. I'm jumping right in then. Let's talk about explosives and blast physics. just how much explosive power was required to create this massive destructive boom. Let's use Tyrek to show just how his own destructive blast works. Tyrek is roughly 10.8 meters from hoof to horn. This is based upon a 1.8 meter pony measurement, as he is roughly 6 times the size of a pony by this point in the show. We can determine this because one tree is 3 pony lengths high, and each pony length is 1.8 meters, while Tyrek is twice as tall as a tree. So there you go, simple observational math. Now, knowing his height and that he is halfway to the center of the blast zone, we can use him to determine that from the edge of the crater to him is 23.8 meters. We use this to work out the area of the circle he is in, starting with the 23.8 meters. And he is halfway to the center, or halfway to the radius of the circle, which is what we actually need. We take 23.8 and multiply by 2 to get a radius of 47.6 meters. The formula for the area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. So this gets us 7,118.1 meters squared. But we have a lot more work to do to determine the total blast force of this explosion. We need to know how far into the ground the explosion went, which is 4.8 meters. And now we have a whole lot more math to do. But before we do that, because this is the first time we're doing this, I want to talk to you about our editor real quick. Transform is an awesome person and looking for more video editing work than I can possibly ever provide. So if you want some work done, just ask. She's the one animating me, and I think she made this video quite awesome. So go on, join the Discord in the description below, or if she remembered to put her contact information here, you can use it. Now, moving on, more math about explosions. We take our 47.6 meter blast radius and factor in that blowing into the earth can take up to 33 times more blast force than just explosions through the air. It takes 1 kilogram of dynamite to blast through a meter of air. Or one of these. But that is blasting through the air with little resistance. For our full calculation, the total amount of TNT required, we need to know the size of the explosion, the amount of destruction it caused, and what it had to blast through to do that. It takes 47.6 times 4.8 for the area it exploded, and then we factor in the resistance of solid rock. We know it's solid rock because Tyrek moves this chunk of rock off himself. So, knowing that explosions go in the direction of least to greatest resistance, the ground offers massive amounts of resistance. We can finally do all of this math. This explosion took roughly 7,539.9 kilograms of TNT to blast into the ground, or this happening roughly 15.8 times over. Though a better analogy would be or 39.9 kilograms, ow, more than half of the explosive force delivered by the fat man, ribs, atomic bomb. Why does this always happen to me?
Hey! My name is Pinkie Pie.
Nope, no. We have a separate video for you. Check the description for it. We are not talking about Pink Horse right now. But now that I think about it, we should talk about tornadoes and party cannons. No. I'll do it. Just take a seat next to the wrecking balls? For this, we can use the storm guard to determine the tornado's lift. Then the physics of the wind interacting with various creatures and objects to determine how much speed our pony heroines need in order to get through the tornado and stay on target to smack the Storm King in his mommy daddy button. Do you remember all those math calculations we did at the beginning of the video? Well, this is where we start using them. Pinky, back to your seat. Wait for it. Here is what we are going to do to determine if this feat is even possible. Prepare yourselves for a whole lot more math. 1. We need to know the circumference of the castle the tornado is spinning around. This is to help us determine the twister's speed. 2. The size and mass of our ponies. We have that. This will be our fixed number to help determine the force behind our pony heroines. 3. The rough amount of force required to penetrate the tornado. We have 2 already. What we need to do is get 1, and then we can use that to help determine 3. This map of Canterlot should help us. We take this house here and just copy it around the castle. This takes us 61 times to accomplish. We then need to know how long the houses are in order to determine the perimeter of the castle. Taking that most buildings are around the same size, we use our ponies, who are 1.8 meters long, and thank you, Rarity, by the way, for helping me out with that. Using ponies as our measuring stick here, we get about 13 meters for the length of one side of the average building in Canterlot. Then this is just simple multiplication. 13 times 61 is 793 meters to do a lap around the Canterlot Gardens. Now that we have our distance, we need to know how long it takes the tornado to do a circle around the Canterlot Royal Gardens. I have just the thing to help us. Play clip 3A. So, we need to measure the speed of our tornado, and we can use a point we recognize in the tornado to do just that. There's these very brief light brown flashes. Each one of them represents a time the tornado circled the gardens. So, for them to flash around that quickly, they would need to move at 318 miles per hour or 511 kilometers per hour in order to achieve the rate we see them on screen. Now we have the speed of our tornado. We need to determine the speed of the ponies to compare the total force of the two. For this, we use the Twilight Tempest Cuddle Puddle and assume it's only 1.5 pony lengths based on how close they are together. Then we can determine the distance the other ponies traveled and the speed they do it at. The other ponies and Spike moved 41 times that in the film. So now we have the math that we need to do. They moved 1.8 times 1.5 meters 41 times, which means in 0.39 seconds they moved 41 Twilight Tempest Cuddle Puddles on screen, or 283 meters per second. We take 283 meters per second and multiply by 289 kilograms to get the force of our ponies. Which, if you remember correctly, our force calculation is mass times acceleration. Therefore, we know that the ponies delivered 81,787 newtons of force directly to the Storm King's crotch. The tornado has a minimum force, however, to get through it and for them to stay on target. We assume 5 times PSI for the rough PSI of our tornado converted into mass, which is this huge calculation over here. I'll keep this short at 3,492 kilograms roughly for the purposes of our calculation. And the speed of our tornado is 141.9 meters per second. Converted from 511 kilometers per hour, we end up with a force of 495,615 newtons generated by the wind? Oh dear, that means they couldn't have penetrated the tornado unless... Oh no, please, I'm not finished yet! Well, looks like I'm gonna have to deal with the tornado. I wonder if explosives will help. But we'll see you next time for part 2 of My Little Pony Physics! So I would like to thank Lightning Bliss and our editor Transform for making this possible. Please do check out Lightning Bliss if you need vectors drawn, and Transform if you'd like some video editing work done. In the meantime, check out this Science of Pinkie Pie video, or this Science of Ruby's Weapons video. Now I'm gonna go deal with the tornado here and get back to making part 2 of this video for you.